is the amazing? There she is. Okay, Beverly is a genius, and it's really good that she is back there because it already would have got all kinds of crazy ways. Um, and I'm going to just give you one apology. When I sent these slides over, they had a white background. Somehow, when they transferred over here, they have this, it's a pretty green. It is. It's going to be difficult to read. So I apologize for that, but we'll get through it. It will be a great time anyways. But I'm so excited to be here. Thank you guys for having me. You have a really special group going on here. We didn't have anything like this when my husband and I moved to McKinney. We moved to McKinney in '95, and in fact, there were no people my age. If I if I was out walking and I found someone that looked within about 10 years of me, I would meet them, get their number, and they became my friends. There weren't young families, but now they're everywhere, and I love it. And Mom's Connection is so special. You all are you're in a season. It's a challenging season. It's a sweet season, but it's a challenging season. And as the kids grow, it changes every time, every day. So to have this kind of support and to have these ladies here stepping in as mentor moms, what a gift. So I'm so excited for you and glad to be here. I'll tell you, Christ Fellowship has a very special place in my heart. It's where my husband and I landed when we first came to McKinney. It was such a gift. We loved it. In fact, let's see, we've gone back and talked to Bruce several times when we've had big issues, and he just was such a good guide. Aaron and Kat are amazing. I know you know what a gift you have. My brother-in-law worked for Aaron at his prior church, and I can tell you, because I'm very close to my brother-in-law and sister, from someone who knew them personally in small group and professionally, they're the real deal. Mike and Sarah, my sister and brother-in-law, both say Aaron is the most humble leader they've ever worked for. So what a gift. What a gift to have both of them in McKinney. And Kat was our keynote speaker at First McKinney a few years ago, and it just touched our women so much. So I know in a room like this, some of you go here, some of you don't. Those of you that are here, you're in a great place. And if you're looking for a church home, this one, it's a good place to be. Well, when we were here, we moved here in '95. We got in a small group. And small groups, I know, are still very much the heart here at Christ Fellowship. But the small group we were in the phase that you all are in. We started having our babies, and we got very close. And in fact, those ladies are my very dearest friends to this day, because we walked through so much early on, and we prayed for each other, and we have really stayed close. And there's 6 of us, and we call ourselves Fort Knox. And and we are a force to be reckoned with. We really are. We're a lot of fun, but we are very strong together and very strong in the Lord. One of them is in heaven, and the 5 of us are still walking on earth, praising the Lord. But I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. But so my title, Flip the Script. Finding God's faithfulness in the middle of the mess. None of you guys have any kinds of mess around you, right? This doesn't exist. So I just felt like I was always in the middle of the mess when I was young, and I like things very much in order, and I kept it that way for the first child. And the second child, it changed, and the third child, and then we had a surprise 4th child, and really the Lord just let me see, no, you're not going to be able to keep your hands around it like you thought you would. But anyhow, we'll go ahead and flip to the next script. So this is Team Smith. These are my kiddos. Matthew's on the left. He is in med school. Lizzie is the next one. She is headed to nursing school. The one in the middle, that's my baby. That's surprise number 4. And we call him our Fire Aggie. He just finished EMT school, and he is headed to Fire Academy here in a few weeks. And then that's my handsome husband We were babies when we met. And then Caroline on the right, she is a surgical PA in Austin. So they're sweethearts. This is us Christmas morning. And I love this picture. You probably can't see it, but there's a lot of animals in here. We had 6 animals at our house for Christmas because all the kids came and brought all their animals. And I love my dog, but I'm not just like a come on animals, but they were there and I do love them. They are my grandbabies for right now. So 2 cats, 4 dogs, 2 cats, 4 dogs. It was lively. Again, there's my control is not there anymore. All right, we'll flip to the next one. This here, okay, you get to see the cottages, Lacey. So, and there's a point for this, but these are my doll houses. And I tell my kids that the doll houses are filling a space until grandbabies come, because we're not there yet. We're not mine. I don't have any that are married. I have 2 that are very close, but it's going to be some time. So these are my doll houses, and really, it's very sweet because when we got them, they didn't look anything like this. We gutted them on the inside, we gutted them on the outside. We moved walls. We did all kinds of things to just bring them to the place where they are now, and it's very sweet. The Lord taught me a lot through renovations. Let's see, after my 4th was born, Luke was born, I was really struggling. I was struggling with identity. I was struggling with self-image. I know some of you have had this, but I had postpartum depression, and with mine, it seemed to get a little more escalated with each time, and a lot of that was anxiety, but it had really gotten high, and I had, and I'll tell you more about this, but panic attacks were a real situation for me, and at one point I remember, and the kids are little. I think they were like 1 to 8. And I was really struggling, and I just felt like I was so lost. I felt like I didn't know who I was. I didn't know my purpose. And I remember just calling out to God one night. And I was in my living room, and I'm like, Lord, who am I? Who am I? How do you even see me? And if there's anything beautiful in me, because I will tell you, I couldn't see it. I could not see it. If there's anything beautiful in me, would you show me? And at that time, I felt like he just came and covered me and let me know, okay, you hang on, because what I'm about to do in you is very similar to what's going on in this house. And at the time, we were doing our first major renovation. We were at our house in McKinney, first major renovation. But it just was this, hold on, and you just wait and see if what I pull together is not more beautiful than what you ever imagined. Well, I trusted him. There were a lot of things I didn't trust, but I did trust the Lord, and I trusted how he led me because I had to hang on to him. All right, let's flip to the next one. So flip the script. That's a good question. Okay, what is flip the script? So flip the script, it is when it's the reverse of the usual or existing positions in situations, doing something unexpected or revolutionary. People can flip a script for wrong reasons, right? I mean, we see things like that, very confusing things in the world. But they can also be flipped to start a different trajectory, to take you in a different way than what you expected. And what I'm going to show you is how the Lord has done that in my life over and over and over. And I want to challenge you all to take these situations, and we'll talk through some of them, but take them and flip the script. Turn them the direction that you never would expect them to go. All right, let's flip again. Okay, so renovations. This is one. This is our current house in Fairview, and on the left is how it was when we bought it. It was built in 1984, and it was cozy, very cozy. But we came in and we did a remodel, and my husband's very sweet. He's learned to just trust me. It's going to be okay. But but this is it now. And then the next slide, Beverly. But in the middle of the remodels, there's always a mess. It's a huge mess. So I personally love demo day. My family hates it. My kids, my third daughter walked in when I was doing this, and we were not there. And she sent me a text. She came home from college, and she knew I was doing a remodel. She didn't really know what was happening, but she sent me a text and said, I just walked into the house, and I threw up in my mouth. I'm like, Lizzie, it's gonna be fine. But anyways, before you can get a remodel, when it's a major renovation, before you can start bringing back in the beautiful things, you have to tear out some things, and it is messy. It can be extremely messy. I know to do this one, you see all the insulations down, had to do all kinds of things. Here, I don't know if you can see it, but there's wires everywhere, but it's messy. It's messy. And if you don't know how to hold on and you can't catch that vision for where you're headed, it can be overwhelming. Like Lizzie, who walked in and threw up in her mouth. So anyways, all right, well, let's go ahead and flip to the next slide. All right, sometimes we create the messy. Sometimes we inherit the messy. And sometimes the messy's thrown at us, and we have no idea that it's coming. And the messy can be stress. It can be difficulties with our kids. It can be health issues. It can be interpersonal issues. But there's a lot that can come in that can cause turmoil. And again, if we don't know where we're headed, it can be overwhelming. All right, here is a verse for you from Jeremiah. But blessed are those who trust in the Lord, who have made the Lord their hope and confidence. That's a good one. We'll hang on that for a second. Well, I'll give you a little bit of my backstory. I want you to know what's going on. It will give you a little bit of credibility, because that bio sounds pretty perfect. And the picture looked pretty perfect. That's a picture for social for these Airbnbs. I have a lady helping me now, so it looks really perfect. My life is anything but perfect, from the day I was born till now. But the Lord has led me in incredible ways. But some background. I was born in Dallas, and we lived in North Dallas. It was a beautiful part of the city. We were in great churches. We were in the church this church came out of a plant, and here you are at Christ Fellowship. But it was a wonderful church, so I early on heard what was true. But what we had going at home was a very different situation. At church, we looked fantastic. We were very put together and polished, but what we were dealing with at home was very hidden, and we were told never to say a word because we would get taken away. And that's a heavy load to put on kids. But my parents got married in their late 20s. My dad had come out of a tough situation, and he didn't talk much about it. It was very tumultuous. There was a lot of trauma, a lot of abandonment. And until he passed away, we still didn't know much. He kept it very, very much to himself. But what that did is it produced a lot of inner turmoil in him. And he never sought help. And there wasn't quite the help we have now, but he never sought help. So he never was able to heal from that. And so it brought a lot of pain to our family. He was very violent, verbally and physically, especially with my mom, and we saw it. But it was a tough situation. It was a tough situation, and we did not always know where things were headed, but we knew the Lord, and we were in good churches. We knew what was going to happen. Let me back that up. We knew there was a sovereign God. We never knew how things were going to turn out. Never. but we knew there was a sovereign God, and we trusted in him. On our good days, we walked on eggshells. But on the bad days, it sounds extreme, but it was more like a hostage situation that you would see on television, where they'd show just a few seconds. So it was very, very rough. Years later, we would learn that what had happened to us was really producing something called complex trauma, and that's different than regular trauma. And when it comes early on, and when there's traumatic events, repeated traumatic events that happen in the formative years of children, it imprints in them this trauma and this fight-flight response. And so that's what we had, and we looked good, but that's what we had growing up. But even in the storm, God was moving. We had a framed verse in our home, and it was of Joshua 24:15. And it says, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." And somehow, even in the confusion of what was going on, I knew that is what we were meant to do. So people ask my sisters and I often how we are still walking with the Lord, and how we're still able to serve. And the answer is simple. It's complicated, but it's simple. We saw the Lord move. We saw his hand on our family. And so we learned that he was true. We learned that we could trust him. Our mom showed us how to trust Jesus when nothing else could help. She modeled complete dependence on God. She prayed consistently. She kept her scripture open. I remember always seeing her with her Bible open. It was always on the kitchen table. She was always speaking that back to us. And she reminded us that God was faithful and that he was at work. And as messy as it was, there were times when my dad would get to his wit's end, and he would cry out to God. And I'm going to share more of that as we weave into this lesson. But seeing that faith played out was a huge imprint. Life is messy. So messy. Can be, but God is faithful. There's a story in the Bible about a man named Joseph, and his story is messy. His family line is messy. His family line, the next generation up, was messy. All kinds of trouble. He dealt with betrayal, abandonment. He was sold. He was the 11th of 12 sons born to Jacob, and he was sold into slavery by his older brothers. Jealousy, spiteful, vindictive brothers sold him into slavery, and he was taken away to a whole other country, to Egypt. And when he was there, the Lord kept showing him favor, and he would rise to a position, and then something bad would happen. He was falsely accused, but then the Lord would place him, and he would move to another position. But and in all of that, the Lord was moving, messy, but God was faithful, and he was moving. He was doing exactly what he had planned on doing through Joseph all along. And at the very end of the story, Joseph's brothers come to him, and they come to him because they desperately need what Joseph has to offer. They're in a land famine. There's really famine all over the land, but they're in a place where they have no more food for their family, so they come to him. They don't know it's Joseph, but they come to him to get this food. And after the story, when it's towards the end, and it's the very, very end of Genesis, but Joseph's face to face with his brothers. And they actually, at this time, they just fall on the ground. They're just sure he's going to wipe them out. But they just, don't hurt us. We're serving you. They were so scared of him. And he looked at them and he said this. He said this to his brothers. He said, and this is in Genesis 20, verse 19. It says, "Don't be afraid. Am I in the place of God? You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Okay, that's flipping the script. That's flipping the script. These brothers thought they were going to send him away, they were going to get rid of him. But God flipped that script of what they thought would happen, and really what Joseph probably thought would happen. But Joseph trusted in God. Joseph, he had grown up. He would have grown up knowing the stories of God, and he was in the early generations of God's people, and he would have heard what God had done and that he was faithful. So it was ingrained in him to trust him, and he did. And then God did something amazing that no one would ever, ever expect. All right. Okay, let's flip to the next one, Beverly. All right, so I'm going to give you three ways to build a faith that stands when life gets messy. The first one, let Jesus disciple you. The second, set the stage. And the third, aim for eternity. Because I'll tell you, I want your faith strong. I want your kids' faith strong for generations to come. So let's take a look. First one, let Jesus disciple you. And we hear about discipleship in church. We get mentors. We have mentor moms. We have pastors. We have small group. And those are necessary. So good. You want to always have yourself in the middle of that. But I'm going to show you how important it is to really let Jesus disciple you. Okay, during another time of anxiety, and I told you this was one of these effects of this complex trauma that would happen when I was younger a lot. But it was after I had had my 4 children, and postpartum was still going on. It wasn't long after this last time the Lord met with me and just reassured me. But this time it had hit again. And when the panic attacks would come for me, I would start and I'd have this feeling here. And I would just let it go, and it would go day after day after day. And have any of you had that? Just you get this tightness in your chest? But it would get so bad. I didn't know what it was. And I was so used to that kind of a pain that I did not know to even tell people about it. I didn't know how to begin to tell them about it. But it got so bad. And that particular night, I really thought, I'm about to have to call 911. My kids were asleep. My husband's asleep. I didn't know what to do, and I thought, this is so bad. And that time, I was so confused because I was with my kids. I was getting snappy. I was getting impatient. I was irritable. Very normal things. This happens to all moms. All moms. That's not unusual, but I didn't know that. And I thought what was happening is I was basically turning into my dad. And I thought, I can't do this. If that is where I'm headed, then Lord, take me out. And that really is what I thought. So I was on my knees, and I had my hands up, and I really was crying out. When you talk to God, or when you hear people talk about crying out to God in the Bible out of desperation, this is what I was doing. I just had my hands up, and I said, Lord, I've tried everything. I've studied your word. I'm walking in obedience. I'm trying everything. Are you going to heal me? Because things were confused. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know if this was mental illness passed down. I did not know what it was. But it was a cry. And even in that time, I told him, if this is where I'm headed, take me out. I don't want to do this to my family. But when I said, will you heal me? This is so precious. The Lord did this. And I think it happens times where there's such desperation. But when I cried that out, he covered me with his peace and his presence. And that's the best way I can describe it. And he spoke to my mind, and he spoke to my heart. And I will tell you, it went through every cell that I had. I knew it from here all the way through. And he said, I will heal you, but who are you going to listen to? Well, I will tell you, I heard that. And I also knew right away when I heard, who are you going to listen to, that I was studying the truth, but I was listening to all kinds of voices that were not the Lord's, primarily what I had heard growing up. And so the Lord began to flip the script in my life. He began to start turning things around. And so what I had to realize is, okay, I need to hear what Jesus says about me, not just what I hear going in church, so important, and what I heard in Bible study, but I need to be really attuned to what he's doing. Let him disciple you. There's a verse in Matthew 11:28, and you all have heard this verse. It's used often to just help people know we're going to get rest for our souls, and it is for that. But I'm going to show you something else. It says this, and I'll tell you this. When Jesus spoke this, he was in the region of Galilee, and he was speaking to different towns. And the people that he was speaking to weren't really listening to him. He had come from that area. He just wasn't getting the response that he had, or that he needed from these people. And he said to them, right before this verse, he said, all things have been committed to me by my Father. And in saying that, he's establishing some credibility, like all things by my Father. Now, they didn't fully believe who his Father was, but then he says this. He says in verse 28, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And that hit differently for me. Come to me, learn from me, you'll find rest for your souls. Come to me, learn from me, you'll find rest for your souls. Well, the yoke, I did a picture here, and I actually have one in my house to remind me of this, but the yoke, and you all have seen this from school, but it's this big apparatus, wooden, and it would be to yoke together, to hold together these different animals that were work animals, whether it was horses or oxen, but it would hold them together because they would have to carry such a load too much for the farmer or whoever was driving them. But the two of them to pull this load, they had to be in sync. They had to be together. So they were yoked together. And I got to thinking, okay. He says, take my yoke upon you. Okay, that's not my own yoke. That's not the weight I carried growing up. He's asking me to come beside him and learn from him. And I started doing that and really just asking the Lord, show me what you want me to do. Show me what you want me to do. And I did it in every situation. Because remember, I did not have this foundation of how to regulate emotions or how I would see things. It really was distorted when I was young with kids. And so I started asking him, Lord, show me what's true. Show me what you want me to do. And so I let him disciple me. So that's the first one. Let's go ahead and look. Actually, don't flip it. Or flip it. There we go. You can't read it anyways, right? Because it has the dark the dark green. All right. Set the stage. Set the stage. Let me explain what this is. I mentioned with my mom, and my mom did this beautifully, but she did, and I call it set the stage, but setting the stage so that your kids can see what the Lord's going to do. Because you can tell them stories that are from the Bible, but until they see it and it really becomes their own, it's not internalized. So set the stage so that they can see it. Well, my mom did this well, and she could have modeled many other responses, but she let us see this, and she talked it through with my sisters and I a lot. She forgave my dad, and she forgave him for things that we didn't know till 30 years later she had to forgive him for. And in many respects, they were unforgivable. but she kept forgiving him over and over because the Lord called her to do that. She pointed us to Jesus, always, always. She would come into our rooms every single night, all three of us, different rooms, and just sit and pray with us. Pray with us. She would pray for what needs we had. She would pray with us for my dad. She would ask the Lord to protect our family, to guide us. So we saw her do that. And then she reminded us again and again that my dad was the Lord's project, not hers and not ours. And we were going to wait and see what the Lord did because she was letting us know this is the Lord's to handle. He's the one that's going to have to do it. It really set the stage for us to see what the Lord does. So that was it. And then in my dad also, I remember in high school at one point, things started to change for him. And he had hit rock bottom. And this is when people many times, it will jolt them, but he had hit rock bottom. He had lost his business. He had, I think, filed bankruptcy as many times as you could. And he had really gotten himself into a big mess in a lot of ways. And some men took him to a conference. At the time, it was Promise Keepers, and it was very good for him. But he had a change of heart, and he realized he had been doing things the Lord's ways. His way and not the Lord's way. And so what he did is he called us together, the three girls and my mom, and he let us know that he had, the best that he could say this, that he had not been walking closely with the Lord, and he had been very harsh with my mom, very harsh with us, and he asked us to forgive him. And then he said, I am starting a new business, and I'm going to do something I haven't done before. I'm going to commit it to the Lord, and I want you guys here as witnesses to it. And I might have been 16 in my sister's middle school, elementary school. But I remember him praying and committing this to the Lord, and we did not know how things were going to turn out or what was going to happen, but it put an imprint in my mind. Again, okay, we're going to put this into the Lord's hand and see what he does. I sought to do the same thing with my kids. I saw that, and I knew if with everything that we had going on, if we can come, my sisters and I can come out and still know and trust him, by worldly standards, we shouldn't have. And everybody knows that, that knows us, that knew my dad. Every counselor that's ever worked with us, pastors, they knew, never should have been okay. But I thought, okay, if we came out knowing and walking with God, what was it? And we saw him. We saw him continually work. And our parents, they did this. My mom mostly, my dad some too, but set the stage so that we could see him work. And then they left the results to him. When our kids were young, I prayed with them about everything. I did. People think this is silly, but I did. I would pray with them and ask for parking spaces, not because I needed the parking space, but I really thought, here, I'm just going to pray, and then I'll leave the results to God. We'll see what he does. And I don't know that there ever was a time something didn't open up. We'd pray for their friends. We'd pray for situations at school. I tried to pray for them every night. I wasn't as good as my mom was, but I tried because I knew that in praying with them and letting them hear us call out to God, we're setting the stage, and then we're leaving the results up to God. When my kids were in high school, we had a very intense situation come at our family. It was in my husband's business, and it was out of nowhere, but we had someone come at our family, come at my husband and his business, and started making a lot of accusations. And they were all false, but they were very threatening and very intimidating. And then that escalated, and this man ended up filing a lawsuit. And I had never been in a lawsuit. I didn't realize that lawyers, their job is to make someone look like they are the most hardened criminal there ever was. But that's what came in our family. And it was hard, and it was overwhelming. And this person that had done it was someone we had walked very closely with. I never saw this coming. And it got so huge. Okay, hang on, I'm going to make sure I did not. Oh, here we go. I'm going to save that part for something else, or for a little bit. But what I did is when that happened, I was overwhelmed. I didn't know what was going to happen. But I knew that God could use it. And so I brought my kids together the same way that my dad had. I brought the 4 kids together, and my husband wasn't with us. He was at work. But I brought them in, and I said this. I told them what was going on. And this was a big deal because it was also an interpersonal issue, because this is someone that they knew very well. And they knew the family very well. And I said, here's what's going on. Oh, I don't know how this is going to turn out. We don't know how it's going to turn out. We have no assurance. We don't know what's going to happen. But I can promise you 2 things. There are 2 things you will see. You will see your dad walk faithfully and honorably before the Lord, and you will see the Lord's hand on our family. I knew it. I didn't know what would happen, but I was setting the stage and then trusting the Lord with the results. And I'll tell you, the Lord did this, and it did not have to go this way. But I do believe the Lord was using this to show my kids his faithfulness. But every time, and this went on for 5 years, every time we'd go to court, every time it went in our favor. And there were a lot of times. And you'd think it would be like this way, every single time. And when it was over, it filed another lawsuit, just in a whole different area. But same thing, every single time. If I would not have sat them down and let them know, I don't know that they really would have absorbed what the Lord was doing. But I set the stage, and then I left the results up to him. So setting the stage isn't about having perfect answers, but it's about making your hope visible and trusting the Lord. So setting the stage, commit the situation to the Lord when it comes, when it's hard, whether it's a small thing, whether it's your marriage, just issues with your husband, things going on to the Lord. Commit this situation to the Lord. Commit to walk faithfully. Those are the first 2 things. We have full control over them. And then remember all the Lord has done. Remember what he's done in the past. And I didn't mention this earlier, but I teach Bible study at our church, and one thing that I love pulling into Bible study is when you're pulling in this whole story of Scripture, starting in Genesis, very beginning, last book of the Bible, Revelation, starting right in Genesis, you start seeing the Lord take this and flip the script. He takes what is impossible, and he does amazing things with it. And he does it again. And he does it again, and he does it again, and does it again. It's no assurance that things are going to go perfect for our family, but he is sovereign, and he's faithful and good. And so we trust that. So trust him with the results. Set the stage and leave the results to him. All right, next one is aim for eternity. Okay, so let me just tell you, I'm going to back it up a little bit, but a few months before this lawsuit was filed, I told you it was interpersonal. This was a friend, and keep in mind also that I had lots and lots of hurt from my dad. And so this churned up for some reason. It just started churning stuff up in me, and it was hard. And the panic attack came again, and it was tight, and it was huge. And I remember, and I think Deb, you were walking. I don't know where you are. You were walking with me through that. But I remember coming before the Lord, and this is huge. You guys, I came before the Lord, and in my mind, I'm thinking all these things. I don't have the coping skills to deal with this. I don't know what to do. So again, I'm on my knees. You can tell I would hit desperation, and I knew to call out to the Lord. So I was on my knees, and my hands are up again. And I just was, and I had been praying all along, so this was not something new. The Lord knew he knew what was going on, but he also had heard me call out to him. But I had my hands up, and I said to the Lord, because I've learned this is a very good question, what do you want me to do? And he did a very sweet thing again. This time, again, he covered me with his peace and his presence, and I knew it the second I did it. And I'd been praying for weeks, but this time I knew it. It was just covered. Somehow that surrender, he met me, and he did this again, and this is so cool. He gave me this picture of myself, and in front of me there was a target, like an archery target, like this. And he had me holding this bow. Now, this is like instant, and it's in my head, it's in my heart. I can see it. Every cell in my body knew what he was showing me. And he said, this, imprinted. Now, this is, I will tell you, it never came through my ears, but it was as knowing could be. And it said this in response to my question, what do you want me to do? He said, you will have to aim for eternity. You cannot look to the left. You cannot look to the right. Okay, Lord, aim for eternity. Do not look to the left. Do not look to the right. So then I'm thinking, okay. First of all, I know you're in it. You heard me. I know you're with me. I know you're leading me. Aim for eternity. So I just thought, okay, we're going to focus on eternity. Well, what I didn't know when he brought that to me is what was coming around the corner. Well, very soon after that, and it was within a week, I wish I had written down wish I had journaled the date on when this happened, but I'm going to say within a week, maybe 2 weeks after that. Remember I told you Fort Knox, the 6 of us, the 6 friends that had come out of a life group here, we met every week to pray. We called each other on everything, but one of the girls in Fort Knox had been feeling sick for a while, and she finally went to a different doctor, and she sent us all a text afterward and said, well, we won't all be hanging out in memory care someday. She let us know she had stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and it was absolutely terminal diagnosis. Sometimes they can do things, but in her case, it was so far. There was nothing from the get-go. It was devastating. So everybody came over to my house that Friday, and we met to pray. And before I did it, Anne had me open my Bible, and she had me turn to Psalm 46. I'm going to read this to you. Some of this psalm is going to be very familiar. But it starts out this way. God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth give way, and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, and the mountains quake with their surging. That reminder of his faithfulness. But then it goes down and it says a few verses later, the Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Okay, Lord. And I'm remembering, aim for eternity. Do not look to the left. Do not look to the right. Aim for eternity. And then it goes down and it says this, come and see what the Lord has done. And Anne said, stop there. She said, that's my verse. I know I'm terminal. I know this is not going to turn out the way I expected or would have wanted, but we are going to mark this. This is the verse. Come and see what the Lord has done. And then at the end of this passage, you've heard this, be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations, and I will be exalted on the earth. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Well, that particular verse, come and see what the Lord has done, it became our verse. And it was so sweet because prior to this, the Lord had been showing Anne that she needed to keep an eternal perspective. So she was already thinking that way. And then I was able to say, okay, let me tell you, this is wild, but let me show you what the Lord showed me. You will have to aim for eternity. You cannot look to the left. You cannot look to the right. Well, it was this sweet time, and then she started into chemo. It was a hard season. And then about 2 to 3 months later, something else hit. Anne's middle son was killed in a head-on collision. Impossible, right? This is hopeless. Impossible. You have to aim for eternity. You cannot look to the left. You cannot look to the right. I will tell you, that was already so ingrained in our head. It did not take away the grief. It was horrible. It was horrible. But the family didn't spiral. Hurt, pain, and it was grief. I'm not going to minimize that at all. But we knew, okay, we're not we aren't looking at these things going on. This is not the way we thought it's going to be. We're going to aim for eternity, not look to the left, not look to the right. And then Anne did pass away just a few months later. But I'm going to tell you this. Humanly speaking, that was impossible. Very soon after that is when the lawsuit was actually filed. My father-in-law, who had been divorced from my mother-in-law for 25 years, he lived out of state, but he was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer, and he was given a very grim prognosis. Then he moved back here, and he lost mobility. He couldn't walk, and then he was diagnosed with a brain tumor, not malignant, but a brain tumor, and he had surgery and recovery, and I had never seen brain surgery. It's not easy. It's very hard, and some of you, I'm sure, have seen how that recovery goes. And then there was COVID. Jared's grandma was diagnosed with stomach cancer and died 3 days later. And you guys, this was in a very short period of time. Like, I will say for sure within a year, probably closer to 9 months. And then my dad's health started declining, deteriorating, and then he passed away. Aim for eternity. You cannot look to the left. You cannot look to the right. Okay, Lord, I'm anchored in this. But I'll tell you this, even in the storm, God was moving. And I'm going to give you this because I don't want you hanging on, on just that. Jared's dad is still alive 5 years later. They were able to come up with some trial medicine, and they did it. And he's still alive. We thought we had months. And then listen to this. His parents, who had been divorced for like 25 years, they got back together. And I will tell you, if anyone had told me that, I would have said, absolutely not. That's not going to happen. I don't want to see it happen. This is not going to happen. Because Jared's dad was a mess. But he turned fully to the Lord. Between the cancer and the brain tumor, changed man. And he came to us and let us know, I messed up so bad. But I want to bring healing to your mom. I want to walk the rest of my life with her. You guys, they got married 30 days to the day of their first marriage. Can you believe that? So just amazing. But we set the stage and we saw what was happening. And we aimed for eternity. My dad ended up, it was sweet. It just got better and better towards the end, but it ended up leaving the sweetest legacy. And when we had his funeral, really friends of mine and people that had known him in business and everything were all wondering, how are you guys going to do this? And we were very honoring but honest, and it ended up, he left the sweetest legacy of a broken man who by God's grace and mercy left an amazing legacy, and it was beautiful. And I could go on and on and on. Really, I wish I had time. Every branch, we're talking cousins, in-laws, nieces, nephews. If you have seen something or heard of something traumatic, it was in our family. And I will tell you, the Lord has brought it back again and again and again. But we always set the stage. Lord, we don't know how this is going to turn out, but we're going to trust you, and we aimed for eternity. Life is messy, but God is faithful. All right, let's see. What's next, Beverly? Set the stage and shine the spotlight. Okay, this is a practical thing. This I actually did that particular year when things were so terrible, because I started doing this, and I thought, okay, we can never forget this. This has been amazing. So I had these columns, and the first one is what was hard. The next column was God's hand in it. And then I had other prayers. Other years when I've done it, we've done it every year since then, I've added, what are we still praying for? And then I left it out. I put it out New Year's the night before, or New Year's Eve morning, right? New Year's Eve morning. And I left it out all that day, and I let the kids come and write on it. And they were middle school, high school, and they wrote on it, and I left it out the next day. And you guys, it was actually crazy, because they just kept coming back, because they remembered all these things that we had said. We don't know how this is going to turn out. We don't know how this is going to work out. But we know We know that God is faithful. We're going to walk and honor him, and we're going to see what he does. And we did, and it was amazing. So we've kept that up every time. So that's a fun way to do it. Set the stage and shine the spotlight. But my friend Ann, when she did it, she set the stage. Come and see what the Lord has done. Her husband, and this was when it happened, the whole community here, they were at Christ Fellowship. Everybody was crushed. It was devastating. They were very involved in the community. It was horrible. But come and see what the Lord has done. That was the the message again and again and again at Ann's funeral. She set the stage, and you guys, the Lord has done so much out of it. Her husband ended up marrying, and some of you guys know the situation, ended up marrying the most beautiful woman. And I mean, and Ann and her husband, they were the perfect couple. Like, I remember we're like, what's ever going to happen? Bob and his new wife are the most beautiful couple. Every time I pass them, I'm like, this is the most beautiful reflection of God's mercy and his grace. They are so joyful. And it's like it always should have been that way. It's amazing, but come and see what the Lord has done. And he's done so much out of it. And everything's not perfect. You know, people are still working through things, but it's amazing. So just another one. And she set it up. She set the stage. And then we got to see what was happening. Well, life is messy, but God is good. We have my family for Easter and Christmas. They come to our house, and it's all extended family. All of Jared's family, all of my family, all the cousins, everyone. And so Jared always welcomes everyone, and then we're always in this big circle, and there's a lot of us. I think there's like 32 of us when we're all together. But there's a whole bunch of us. And when we're all together, every time I get to start with them, and I'm like, you guys, God has been so faithful, so faithful. And with the kids, I'm like, kids, do you see this? This entire family is a redemption story of what God has done. We never saw it coming. Don't ever forget this. So just every time we remember and remind them, because I know my kids and nieces and nephews, they're going to hit confusing times. And when things get confusing, we can lose our way. And I want their default always to be, but I know God is faithful. And even if I get off, but I know God is faithful. I'm going to close with an illustration. And this is one of my favorite illustrations. But my husband it's not his job, but he's a pilot, so it's a hobby. And he loves to fly planes. And when he started getting his instrument rating, and this was a while ago, probably 10 years ago, but when he started getting his instrument rating, what they do, well, let me tell you this. First of all, instrument rating, if you don't know, you have to get it so that you can fly when the conditions are bad. Because when the sky is clear, when it's like severe clear, you can see everything. You can see water towers. You can see highways. You can see McKinney Boyd. You can see these big marks, right? These big markers. But when the weather changes, you can't see it. And so they have to go through this training to get instrument rated. Well, when they go through this training, the way that they train them is they have to put on either one's called a hood, and it's this hat that has this kind of this flap that goes like this, so they cannot look out the windshield of the plane. My husband used what was called foggles, and I always have my foggles with me. My foggles got lost somewhere in the Christmas mess, so you guys aren't going to get them, but I'll describe them. But they look like goggles you would use in a lab, like if you were in a lab in high school. They're just plastic goggles. But here's the difference. Halfway up the goggles, it gets complete fogged like double wax paper. Super fog. So you can tell there's light there. You can see nothing. So they have to wear these. So they should train for it. They get in the plane, and as they're taking off, as soon as they're up in the air, their instructor says, put on your foggles. So they put on their foggles. Absolutely can see nothing. They're forced to look at this instrument panel. This was one of our old planes, but they're forced to look at this instrument panel, and it's to teach them to trust their instruments. Because if they don't, they'll get totally disoriented. There is a condition that happens, and it's called spatial disorientation. And when pilots are in the air, if they lose their visual their vision. They can't see what's going on. They get so disoriented, they can fall prey to this. And Jared told me, he said, when you're out there, your brain tells you one thing, and it's very often not right. So you could think, I am headed to the McKinney Airport, and you could be sideways flying this way or this way. You could be upside down. And he said, you can't tell. You can't feel it. Isn't that strange? But your mind starts, your senses start playing games with your minds. And so they force them, because it's absolutely crucial that they learn to trust their instruments. Well, in 1999, the year that my daughter was born, and younger moms, you probably heard of this. The older mentor moms, you guys will know this. But there was a horrible plane crash that happened, and it rocked our nation. John F. Kennedy Jr.'s son, John Jr., was flying a plane, and they were off the coast of Martha's Vineyard, and he had his wife Lauren and her sister, or his wife Carolyn and her sister Lauren with him. Now, John had a fabulous plane, obviously. He's a Kennedy, right? It was the best you could get. But he wasn't fully instrument rated. He had started it, but he wasn't fully instrument rated. And the weather started coming in bad, and people encouraged him. The tower where he was leaving, everyone encouraged him, this is not a good idea. You really can't fly in this. But he did it anyways. He thought, I'll get there, I'll get above the clouds. So anyways, he took off. The weather turned bad, and then these news blasts started coming out all over the place, on the news and the papers. John F. Kennedy, plane crash. And we're like, how can that be? Plane crash. Well, this is so interesting, because when the experts went back and looked at what had happened, this is what they came to the conclusion, likely. Now, you don't know exactly, but this is what they said likely happened. Because he wasn't instrument trained, he was not forced, he was not absolutely reliant on these. And it was likely that when he got up, and it was very bad visibility, when he got up in the clouds, he got disoriented, and they feel like his plane turned upside down. So when he would pull back on the throttle, which is what you would do to lift yourself up over the clouds, instead of doing that, he was upside down. So when he pulled up on that throttle, it took the plane into the Atlantic Ocean. Spatial disorientation, because your senses lie to you. Well, that's a lot like how life can be. And that's a lot like how parenting can be. When things get hard, when they get tough, our emotions, our own realities that we come up with can get us disoriented. And we have to be able to lock on to what's true. Okay, God is our instrument panel. We as moms, we have to train ourselves to trust His word, to trust His truth, so that we can ingrain that on our kids. Because when things get hard, when financial troubles come, when things in the world go crazy, when personal things hit us, whatever, all kinds of things happen. And we all know hard things will happen to us. A lot of the ones I'm showing you are extreme. Those extremes may never happen, but ones that will throw you off will. And we have to learn to trust our instruments. All right, train your mind and your children to trust what is true, so it becomes your default. Last verse I'm going to give you guys, and this is from Hebrews, and I love it because we're talking about hang on to what is true. Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess, for He who promised is faithful. Let us hold unswervingly. Aim for eternity. Do not look to the left. Do not look to the right. Let Jesus disciple you. We're going to set the stage for our kids. Then it says this, and I love this for you guys. Mom is in here together. And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as we see the day approaching. You want to trust your instruments. You want to trust your instruments. Last slide, Beverly. Flip the script. when things that would take us, I think of all the things the Lord has walked me through. My inclination, what my senses were showing me, were the opposite of where the Lord was taking me. Flip it and let him do what is far better than what you would ever ask or imagine. Let Jesus disciple you, set the stage, and leave the results to God. Aim for eternity. Do not look to the left. Do not look to the right. You don't have to do it perfectly. None of us do. There are no perfect parents. You don't have to do it perfectly, but do it consistently, because that is what they will see. No matter how messy life becomes, and it will, you can trust the faithfulness of God. You can trust the faithfulness of God. I assure you, my life would be a train wreck, except that there was a sovereign, faithful, and good God that reoriented and started moving all things together for his good and for mine. He's steady. When everything feels uncertain, he is present in hardships you would never have chosen, and he's working in ways beyond what you can imagine, and he's faithful to do what he promised. And when your children see that trust lived out in you, not perfectly, but consistently, you're leaving an imprint on them that will guide them long after they leave home. I'm going to pray for you guys. You guys have been so sweet to listen. Let me pray over you. Lord God, I come to you. I praise you. You are sovereign. You are faithful. You are good. Lord, I thank you for these sweet mamas. I thank you that they're here. And I know so much of what I laid out was hard and heavy, but you are faithful and good. Lord, I pray over them and over their kids. I ask that you would work through these moms to leave an incredible imprint of your faithfulness and your goodness and your love on their families. All right. And I ask this in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen. All right. Thank you, guys.